Today we're going to hit a passage that we've already touched on because I want you to explore this a little more closely. Nebuchadnezzar has set up a massive 90-foot statue, a monument to his own greatness, and he's forcing the nations of the world to worship this thing. Now here's what it says in Daniel 3 verse 6. And whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast immediately into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. Now, here's the question I want you to think about. Why in the world would God allow the nation of Israel to be dragged all the way over to Babylon to live as servants and slaves, and then put them in a situation where they either adopt a false system of worship or pay with their lives? I mean, isn't He a God of love? And wouldn't He want to protect His people from hardship? A number of years ago, a good friend of mine made an almost overly simple but important observation as he was watching the employees in a diamond factory polishing stones. The fact was, they weren't polishing sandstone or coal. They were grinding and polishing diamonds until those rocks were worth something in the marketplace. Now, listen to this passage from the book of Proverbs as it's quoted over in the book of Hebrews chapter 12. You find the quote partway through verse 5. It reads, "My son, do not despise the chastening of the Lord, nor be discouraged when you're rebuked by Him. For whom the Lord loves, He chastens, and scourges every son whom He receives." The fact is, if we were still everything we were originally created to be, we wouldn't need polishing. But anybody who's honest is going to have to admit that their personal character wouldn't stand up in a court of law if angels were doing the cross-examination. We're full of flaws like self-centeredness, pride, and arrogance. For most of us, if we're really honest, we'd have to admit that our favorite subject is ourselves. That was certainly the case with ancient Israel. You know, they had everything. A land of their own, the presence of God in their midst, the counsel of prophets, and the written revelation of God. But in the best of conditions, they became the worst of people. They allowed the world to get them and steer them off course. So now God ships them off to Babylon and shows them the alternative. Let me show you what a world would look like without me, God says. And in essence, He sends the descendants of Abraham back to the country they originally came from. He gives them a reminder of what they had, or didn't have, before the covenant with God. And now, with the statue in front of them and the burning furnace waiting for the faithful, they have no choice but to lean on God. All other means of support have disappeared, and they're about to discover that character really does matter. And of course, the lesson is obvious. Almost everybody, believers especially, have these rough moments in their lives where they wonder what in the world God is up to. I get letters almost every day from heartbroken people who have had to endure some pretty awful things. But the important thing to remember is that God doesn't polish sandstone and coal. He polishes diamonds. He allows it because He knows what's going to come out on the other end. And I know for a fact, having been polished a few times myself, that every single time I've discovered that sticking with God in the tough spots always proves to be a better way to live.